So, Abubakar Malami, the former Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice under President Buhari, has been rearrested by the DSS. But hold on, this isn't about that massive 213 billion naira corruption case you've been hearing about. No, this is something that takes a much darker, more dangerous turn. This time, Malami is facing charges for possessing illegal arms and ammunition found right inside his house in Kebbi State. And presently, this news has left many Nigerians talking. Almost every media house has published the story. All concerned Nigerians who have been following Malami's corruption case are talking about this on Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly Twitter, WhatsApp groups. People are sharing the stories with their friends and relatives. Now let that sink in for a moment. The nation's former chief law officer, the man who oversaw the entire justice system, is now being questioned about a cache of weapons discovered in his private home.
Now, how did we get here? It all started with the EFCC's ongoing investigation into that enormous corruption case. They went to his house, digging for more financial evidence. But instead of just finding documents or records of shady transactions, they stumbled upon something far more alarming: a stockpile of illegal firearms. Imagine the scene: operatives expecting to find paper trails, instead finding weapons. The EFCC, realizing this was way outside their lane, they deal with fraud and financial crimes, not arms, immediately handed the whole discovery over to the Department of State Services, the DSS. Why? Because the DSS has the mandate to handle matters of national security, illegal arms, and terrorism. And this, my friends, instantly moved from a case of corruption to a potential case of grave national security threat.
Let's pause and think about this. The EFCC was looking for evidence to nail him on corruption, and they ended up uncovering what could be evidence for an even more serious crime. It's like going to arrest someone for stealing a car and finding a whole arsenal in their garage. The question that immediately punches you in the face is, why? Why does a former Minister of Justice, a senior advocate of Nigeria, have a large quantity of illegal arms in his house? What possible legitimate reason could there be?
Now, the sources are saying something crucial here. The category and quantity of weapons found are not the kind you can just get a license for. Nigerian law allows for licensed firearms, yes, but these are strictly regulated. Think small arms for personal protection. What was found in Malami's house is reported to be above that category. We're talking about weapons that are military grade, the kind that should never, ever be in a private residence. This immediately raises terrifying possibilities. Is Malami an arms dealer? If he is, who gave him the license? And more importantly, who are his customers? Who was he selling these weapons to, or who was he storing them for?
This is where the story hooks into one of the most painful issues plaguing Nigeria: insecurity, terrorism, banditry, the endless violence. For years, Nigerians have been asking desperate questions. Who is fueling this? Where are these bandits and terrorists getting their sophisticated weapons from? There have been whispers, loud whispers, that some of the people behind this terror were actually in the corridors of power during the last administration. And now, with this discovery, those whispers are turning into a deafening roar.
Remember the allegations from Major General Danjuma Ali Kefi, the former GOC who headed Operation Service-Wide? He explicitly accused Malami of being among those who had links with arrested terrorism suspects. He said Malami played a key role in frustrating the prosecution of those suspects. Think about the gravity of that. The nation's chief prosecutor allegedly sabotaging the prosecution of terror suspects. Now, with weapons found in his home, those allegations don't just seem credible, they seem connected. Could it be that the man who was supposed to put terrorists away was instead connected to their supply chain?
So the DSS now has perhaps one of the most significant investigations in recent times on its hands. This isn't just about one man and some guns. This is a potential thread that, if pulled, could unravel a whole network. The DSS has to find out, was Malami running a private arsenal? Was he a middleman for non-state actors? Was this for personal militia, for political intimidation,
or for supplying the very groups that have made life a nightmare for ordinary Nigerians? And here's a critical question for you, the viewer. Does the discovery of these weapons in the home of such a high-profile former official shock you, or does it confirm your deepest suspicions about where the roots of our insecurity might lie? Let us know in the comments.
Meanwhile, Malami is playing a curious game. He was granted bail last week on the corruption charges, but he's still holed up in Kuje prison. Sources say he's deliberately not perfecting his bail conditions. Why? Because he knows the DSS is waiting for him the moment he steps out. They are reportedly right there within the precincts of the correctional center, ready to pick him up for questioning on this arms case. So he'd rather stay in prison on a lesser charge to avoid being taken in for a much more serious one. That tells you everything you need to know about the severity of this new investigation. A man chooses to remain in jail to avoid another agency. What does that say about what he fears they might uncover?
The EFCC chairman, Ola Olukoyede, has confirmed this is not a new vindictive probe. He inherited this Malami case from as far back as 2019, from the days of Ibrahim Magu. This has been a long, slow burn. And while the financial crimes are staggering, 57 assets valued at over 213 billion naira, this arms discovery is the explosive twist no one saw coming. The court has given him 14 days to prove those properties were legitimately acquired or lose them forever. But that almost seems like small potatoes now. How do you explain away a hidden arsenal?
The narrative here is staggering. A man who sat at the very heart of government, who swore to uphold the law and defend the Constitution, is now a suspect in a case that strikes at the heart of the nation's safety. This investigation is no longer just about stolen money. It's about stolen peace. It's about stolen lives. The DSS's probe will seek to answer if a former high-ranking official was a part of the very machine of violence that has crippled communities across the north and the country at large.
So I ask you another question. If these investigations prove a link between high-profile officials and the proliferation of illegal arms, what do you think it means for the future of Nigeria's fight against terrorism and for the trust of the people in their government? The implications are huge. This could be a watershed moment. It could reveal the shadowy connections between power, corruption, and violence. It could expose the supply lines that have kept terrorists in business. Or it could be swept under the rug. The pressure on the DSS will be immense, but Nigerians are watching. The world is watching.
As this unfolds, remember that Malami has to answer the simplest yet most damning question. What was a former Minister of Justice doing with a large stockpile of illegal weapons? His answer, or lack thereof, could tell us more about the state of our nation than any political speech ever could. This story is still developing, but it has already shifted the ground beneath our feet. It's a story that blends corruption with potential treason, greed with grave danger. It's a story that challenges everything we think we know about where the real power lies and where the real threats come from.
Now, the final thought for you to ponder and respond to in the comments. Do you believe this DSS investigation will be allowed to reach a conclusive, truthful end, regardless of where it leads? Or do you fear it will be compromised by the powerful networks involved? Your perspective is crucial. Stay tuned, because this is not just a news story. This might just be a chapter in understanding the true crisis of Nigeria, and understanding is the first step towards demanding change.